Welcome to the 2026 Ed Talks. I am so excited. My name is Seth Rankin. I joined the board last year, and I have to say, it's been one of the highlights of my career, actually. So we're gonna have some speakers today, and the goal is designed to inspire, educate, and give you something to take back to your community. Whether you're an MSU student just getting started in the industry, God bless you, or you're a longtime OG here that has maybe multiple restaurants, welcome. This is also a really special time. We've got an 11-year anniversary of the Ed Talks, so put your hands together for that. And this, to me, feels like a full circle moment because Eat Denver has been around now for 20 years. So huge, big shout out to Eat Denver and all of you that are part of this community. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but at a later date. But I was at the initial onboarding of this, and there are some really phenomenal people that got this started. 20 years of anything is pretty amazing, but to have an organization like this that lasted 20 years is beyond comprehension. So please put your hands together because you all make this happen, truthfully. You all make this happen. There is one other person who I'm going to introduce because, no? She said no. But yes. So I think... a couple other things I just want to talk about. One of the other things that's really great about this is I have had the chance in my past life to travel the world. And I've worked with restaurateurs in London, Japan, Melbourne, Australia. And there's truly no other organization or community that I found that is like Eat Denver. So we have really built something phenomenal here. And so I'm just beyond excited to be here today with all of you. And I think the other piece of this is that it doesn't happen without hard work. So all of you participating, and I've seen you on the list share and jumping in and saying great things or helping each other out, but it also doesn't happen with one other amazing individual who is our executive director, Kristen Rao.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Standing. Oh, okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you to our resident MC, Seth. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for this morning to reconnect with old friends, to get inspired, and to get equipped with big ideas that you can take back to your four walls and beyond. As Seth said, this year marks 20 years of Eat Denver, what started as Denver Independent Network of Restaurants, a small idea that grew into a community of chefs, restaurateurs, bartenders, hospitality professionals, and leaders who support each other through the best and the hardest of times. Eat Denver works to, I'm also on clicker duty. Eat Denver works to connect and empower independent food and beverage concepts across the region, but we can't do that with the support of all of you and the shared mindset that a rising tide lifts all boats. If the last several years have taught us anything, it's that independent hospitality community is super resilient, but that resiliency can't happen alone. It happens because people show up for each other, for their teams, and for their neighborhoods. That's why events like Ed Talks matter. For 11 years, this stage has given voice to people shaping the industry and inspiring its future. This morning, you'll hear strategies for retaining star team members, learn the cycles of restaurant ecosystems, gain practical AI applications, reconfigure your beverage programs, improve your online visibility, and find inspiration in a journey of chefhood. Before we begin, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of the partners and sponsors who helped make today possible. Performance Food Service, American Lamb Board, Starry-Eyed Strategy, the MSU School of Hospitality, and the Day Leadership Academy. Can we also get a shout out to our food and beverage partners, Rosenberg's, Blackbelly, and Novo? And to our sustainability partners, EP Distribution for the compostables and Scraps for the composting. Thank you for supporting our sustainability initiatives. Thank you also to Nikki Ray for doing our headshots in the back. I was in need of major updates. And major shout out to David, who's doing our AV. Thank you, David. This morning he caught that I put Ed Talks 2025 on all the slides, so thank you for that. I also want to thank Kip, who's wearing a suit, and to our volunteer board of directors, including our incoming board members, for their tireless commitment to our mission and our organization. If you're a board member, can you stand up so we can applaud you? And these faceless wonders, our Eat Denver committee members. I ran out of time for your headshots, but thank you so much. Our committee members serve on committee once every month. Please appreciate these animations. Thank you so much to all of you. And Seth already said it, but a huge thank you to all of you. You make this job feel not like a job, other than when I stay up till midnight writing speeches and wake up at 6 to set up events. But I'm just so grateful and so in awe of all your passion and your shared values of community, and it's really an honor to advocate for you all. So I'm going to pass this back to Seth, and we're going to get started.
Woo-woo! Another round of applause for Kristen, please. Yes, she makes this all happen. So today we've got an all-star lineup, as you can tell. Just to give you an idea of how this all runs, it's short, very intentional speakers, and we've got a little intermission halfway through, so we've got 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom of the program. Please, if you would, silence your phones so we can take full advantage. Also, there are restrooms right out back and around to the right if you need that. You're adults, you can do that on your own, and when you need to. With that, enjoy the ideas and the sharing here, and please take notes if there are things you want to take back to your community. With that, let's get the party started. So, when it comes to introductions, every great talk deserves a great introduction. And so here, Madam President of our community, Sarah Abel, is going to introduce our first speaker. So, put your hands together.
Okay, can you all hear me? I'm not coordinated enough or caffeinated enough to, I think, follow Seth. But good morning. Thank you all so much for attending our annual Ed Talks and choosing to spend the morning inside with us instead of sunning yourself outside on the quad. It takes a village to produce these events, as Kristen and Seth have said, and I just want to extend another thank you to all of our volunteers, speakers, MSU team, F&B partners, ace photographer Nikki Ray, board and committee colleagues, and especially Kristen and Kip for your early and long hours to produce today's session. As Seth mentioned, I'm Sarah Abel. I am very proudly your board Madam President and also programs chair. And my side hustle, I'm a partner at a PR firm called Baltz & Company, and we are very lucky to work with independent restaurants and bars locally and across the country. By a show of hands, how many of you attended the Danny Meyer program recently? So that was a super kick-ass day. Thank you all for joining us. And it would not have been feasible without a lot of people, especially our fearless leader, Kristen Rao, who, alongside Peter Newland, helped make that sparkling afternoon a possibility. So, Chris, thank you for your heart and hustle and grace and delivery under pressure. You're the best. But back to today. I am delighted to introduce our next speaker, another dynamic, vibrant, and inspiring woman who I've had the pleasure of knowing for more than 13 years. Jodi McAllister has run just about every position on the floor in her 2+ decades in the industry. We first crossed paths when Jodes was GM at Pizzeria Locale, now known as Pizzeria Alberico in Boulder. And in the years since, she's worked her way up to Director of HR for Frasca Hospitality Group, where she currently oversees hundreds of team members across 6 restaurants in Boulder, Inglewood, Denver, and Vail. And as if that wasn't enough, she's the wife to a great husband, fabulous mom to 2 young kiddos, and if you ask nicely, I'm pretty sure she'll show you pictures of her new puppies, little sheepdog puppies, Millie and Cooper. Jodes, I admire your energy, poise, unflappable demeanor, and incredible ability to juggle and make shit happen. I'm very proud to welcome you to the board. I'm very proud to be your hype girl forever and ever and welcome you to the stage. Jodi McAllister.
Ooh, yeah. All right, Eat Denver. Good morning. Thank you all so much for having me. It is a true privilege to be standing on this stage today. And thank you, Sarah. What an incredible introduction. And most importantly, thank you, Kip. Thank you, Kristen, for programming me first. So if I mess up, none of you will remember it by the time Michael goes, okay? All right, let's get into it today. Retention is the new recruiting. Quick show of hands. Who here is hiring at the moment? Who here is looking for a job at the moment? Come on, MSU students, let's go. All right. Okay, so here's what I find interesting about this. We are in the hospitality industry, right? We know how to build loyalty. It's what we do. We live it, we breathe it. We track which guests come back and why. We track which guest drinks sparkling water, which guest drinks still water, what's their favorite burrito every single morning, and what salsa they get with it. We train our teams to invest in this experience for our guests. We invest in the ambiance, the tools, the systems. We do that because we understand that the value isn't in one transaction. It's built in a relationship over time. So here's the question I keep asking myself in HR. Why don't we apply this same logic to our people? Most operations don't have a recruiting problem. We have a retention problem. And the reason we keep solving it with recruiting is because hiring feels like an action. It feels productive. Retention is slower. It's relational. And it doesn't just show up on a checklist, but where it shows up is on our P&Ls and in our culture and on the faces of the individuals that stay but see the good team members leaving. Industry research puts the cost of replacing a single employee anywhere from 50 to 200% of their annual pay. Not just the job posting, not in just the uniforms that you have to keep repurchasing, but the full cost, the slower tickets, the nights where you have to comp 2 meals because of mistakes. And then those managers, the managers that are spending all of their time training instead of leading the floor. We pay that tab every few months. I've been a manager. I've been on the floor on those really brutal Friday nights with a skeleton crew, just wondering if you're gonna make it and hold on. And I get it. Some of you guys don't have an HR department, or you've never been to the HR department, or you are the HR department, right? You are running your teams. So whether you have a team of 3, 30, 300, what I'm gonna say today applies to everyone. Because none of it requires a system, it requires intention. All right, I'm working this clicker pretty good. I like this. All right, okay. Retention starts at the hiring stage. I'm gonna start here because most of us think that retention is a future us problem. But really, some of your turnover may start at that hiring process. Not because you hired bad people, right? We're hiring great people out there. It's because we're rushing to fill a seat and we hire for availability rather than alignment. Or we paint a rosier picture of what it looks like on our floor versus the reality. We promise flexibility and we can't always deliver on that. So 3 things that I'd like to talk about during this hiring process. Be honest about the role. Talk about the gritty moments, the hard moments. Talk about what the schedule really looks like. The right person's gonna stay because you told them what the job was about. Know their goals. You're about to start a relationship with this person. Know what they want from it. And make commitments. That might be hard for some of you in this room, but make commitments. Write them down. What does success look like in 30 days, in 90 days? And whether it's on the back of a napkin or on that notebook that you take to every interview, write it down, because that paper, that piece of paper becomes your retention contract. A playbook. Okay, so 3 things. Again, no new systems, no new software. I'm not introducing any of that today. Just intentional leadership done consistently. In HR, I have to do a number of exit interviews. And I want to propose, why aren't we doing more stay interviews? So number 1, communicate before there's a problem. Schedule these 15-minute conversations. It's not a performance review, it's a conversation with that team member. What's motivating you? What's challenging you right now? And what you learn from those conversations may surprise you, and with that employee, it's gonna mean more than you know. Set expectations and hold them for everyone. Consistency is gonna be your most underrated retention tool. When your team sees that expectations are held for everyone, from you to the owner, top down, trust is built. When they don't see that, it erodes. Address what needs to be addressed. Your word is your retention strategy. And this last one, recognize people specifically. My daughter said that last night, it was so cute. Specifically and often. All right, we say this all the time. Good job, we crushed it. That is not recognition. I want you to name the behavior. I saw how you crushed the pass last night. That's the type of ownership I want to see from you every night. Name the behavior, mean it. Do it often and consistently. It costs you nothing, and it could change the game for you. Studies show that 75% of employees are less likely to leave if they feel recognized. Okay, so this is what retention is going to look like from us as leaders on the floor. But let me tell you what it might look like from an employee side. Last year, we lost a few senior servers. We lost some senior chefs, people in our company that had been with us for a while. At FHG, we cover employee benefits if you've been with us for 3 years or longer. These employees were getting full benefits, great pay. The number one thing they said to me during their exit interview is that they hadn't had a meeting or a conversation with their manager in over a year. When I sit down with individuals for exit interviews and really sit down with them, these are the 5 things that get brought up the most. They stop growing. There's no conversations, there's no opportunity, so they go find that horizon somewhere else. Growth doesn't have to mean a new title. It doesn't have to come with a promotion every time, but it does have to come with purpose. They felt invisible. We all have those people on our team, and maybe you're that person on the team that will do things without being asked. And because people do that, we often stop noticing. We're so busy pouring our energy into the problems that we forget to pour it into the individuals that keep us afloat. They lost trust in their manager. This relationship is one of the most powerful retention variables we have, the direct supervisor and the employee. Not the pay, not the benefits, but that relationship. And when it's transactional or one-sided, unfortunately, our people leave. The culture didn't match the promise. This goes back to that very first hiring moment that you have, right? If your pitch of, we are a team here, we promote from within, if that pitch doesn't meet the reality for that new hire, they're gonna leave. Inconsistent accountability wore them out. High performers, You're in this room, you notice everything. And when you see those standards, the standards that are set and the standards that aren't actually enforced, when those don't match, our people will leave. Your top performers, they don't lower the bar, right? They get exhausted holding that bar up. So I want to go back to my first kind of talking point about retention being a hospitality tool. We track the lifetime of our guest. We have loyalty programs. We have Open Table. We have all of these great programs that we invest in because the relationship doesn't come in one visit. It comes in all the visits after that. Your people work the same way. So let's ask yourself, when was the last time you applied this logic to your team? The guest experience your regulars keep coming back for, that doesn't come from the POS system. It comes from the server who's been with you for 3 years that knows every regular by name. It comes from the line chef that is owning their station like it's their own kitchen. And it comes from the manager that sets the tone before the doors open. Turnover doesn't just cost you money, it costs you that. It costs you that relationship that your guests don't even know that they're coming back for. So when we talk about retention, we're not just talking about reducing the line item, we're talking about protecting the thing that makes your restaurant worth coming back to. Retention isn't just about keeping people, it's about building a space, a place that's worth staying, both for the guest and your employees. We treat recruiting like it's a solution, when really it's a symptom. So, my challenge to you all today, and those of you that are gonna be in the industry in years to come, before you post another role, before you schedule another interview, ask yourself who on your team is showing up, holding those standards, and wondering whether or not you see them. Find that person, have the conversation, and do it today. Do it this week. Hiring fills shifts, retention builds restaurants. Let's build places worth staying at. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning. I remember the first time I came to one of these Ed Talks. It was in 2017. Eric Skokan spoke on the joys of failure, which I think is a brilliant title to his speech. And everyone's favorite, Daniel Asher, spoke on the politics of menu activism, when both of those themes ring so true, especially for your next speaker today. It is my pleasure to introduce someone who has helped make this city not only more delicious, but more curious and thoughtful about food and the drinks we make, serve, and share. Her name is Mara King. Mara is the Director of Sustainability. We like to call her Director of Impact at Est, and quite possibly one of the most prolific fermenters working in our industry today. What truly defines Mara's work is the way she moves between being a chef and a teacher, sharing knowledge that reaches far beyond the walls of somewhere like the Wolf's Tailor and into the broader community, including many people in this room. Through fermentation and a deep respect for indigenous knowledge and tradition, she's helped shape how chefs, producers, and diners across Denver think about ingredients, culture, stewardship, and ultimately taste, showing us that preservation lets us make the most of every ingredient, turning what might be forgotten into something extraordinary. Beyond all of that, Mara is someone I am lucky to call both a colleague and a friend. Anyone who gets the chance to spend time with her is absolutely better for it. So please help me give a warm welcome to Mara King.
That's me. Okay, restaurant ecosystems is what I'm here to talk about today. And you'll have to forgive me because I think this talk is a little like, what's the word? Poetic or flighty or something of the ether that I'm trying to bring down to earth. But in order to understand what I'm going to present, and in order to understand this line of thinking, I'm going to need to train you all really quickly to think a little bit like a fermenter. Because fermenters are very interesting creatures. We are an interesting breed of people that you might come across the world. And, you know, oftentimes fermenters are people who carry traditions, people who have these sort of evolved human traits and traditions that have been passed on through many generations. And fermenters are creators that they create understanding how the natural world works rather than creating in a forceful manner. So in our first lesson on fermentation, we have behind us 2 jars. And in the jar on your left, we have a lactic acid ferment. And in the jar on the right, we have a pasteurized preservation. And I have nothing against pasteurization. It's a very useful tool to preserve the season. But for this consideration, I want you to think about effort and power and where one would commit this effort and power. So in a fermentation, you have to understand who you're working with. And you're working with microbes. And in a microbial mix, if you want to create something that is sustainable and lasts a long time, you have to understand who to promote within that mix. So in this example of lactic acid fermentation, on the right-hand side, on your left-hand side, you have lactic acid bacteria and yeast. And we know that by creating an anaerobic space for them, they're going to proliferate. And on the right-hand side, we understand that in either container, right? So you're inviting all the microbes to the party in both containers, and there may be microbes that could be harmful in either one of those containers. But by creating the anaerobic space, that space will encourage an acidic the acid-forming bacteria to proliferate. And on the right-hand side, you just apply heat and pressure until everything within it dies. The same line of thinking goes towards, say, for example, like antibiotics. In order to use an antibiotic, in order to kill one small microbe that could be harmful within your body, one small virus within your body, then using the antibiotic sort of wipes every single microbe out. So the amount of force that you're utilizing in order to create sort of ground zero within your body is akin to throwing a giant bomb on a city to kill a rat. In the fermentation scenario, by creating an environment where the good guys proliferate, you will naturally push the bad players out. Another way of thinking of this container, if you zoomed out and your container became the size of the world, well, you could utilize force to take over and to push and to exercise your will, and that would be considered a power play, and you could compare that kind of thinking to colonialization. All right, let's talk about mother. So if you want to create a space where the good guys succeed and the bad guys do not have to be pushed out through massive amounts of power, you can call upon what is often called a SCOBY. A SCOBY stands for a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. So a mother is like a kombucha SCOBY or milk kefir, a sourdough starter, and on the far right you have the chew balls, which are a kind of mold-based ferment from East Asia. Utilizing these starters are a great way to seed your idea into a ferment so that you're encouraging the right things to happen, and you hold a container to encourage the wrong things not to happen. What's really fascinating to me is to think, where does the mother come from? So mothers are generally passed on from generation to generation. For example, if you were in the Eastern Caucasias, you might have a yogurt mother that has been passed down to you from through generations. And the yogurt mother has hundreds of different microbes. And by utilizing that mother, you can keep creating yogurt pretty much forever. And when people traveled or had to emigrate in the past, they would bring their mothers with them. So say, for example, somebody was going from the Ukraine area and they were traveling to the United States by boat and it took them 3 months. They would take their yogurt and put it on a piece of tissue or a piece of a cloth and dry it out, fold it carefully into their luggage, and then when they got to where their destination was, months later, they would bring it back to life by putting that mother back into the flow of production. You can do the same thing with sourdough. You can do the same thing with any of the mothers that you see above if you know how to transport them. What's fascinating to me is there is this idea of a fingerprint that's microbially symbiotic, or these microbes that they behave in a mutualistic way, and they have some sort of communication between them that goes beyond what we can understand. There was a study in 2025 that showed that even though in milk kefir, which is a mother that comes from the sort of Mongolian plains, Mongolian steppes area, and is considered sacred in that region, they managed to take that mother apart, and they identified each individual microbe that was within it. But they could not put those microbes back together to regenerate the SCOBY, like the little sort of cauliflower nubby that you see there. They couldn't reverse engineer it. So there's something that happens, some sort of communication within the system that is not yet understood. So this brings us to the understanding of wild fermentation versus lab starters. And we are a modern society. We've created and we've been able to identify these different microbes that we can utilize for great benefit within humanity. And these microbes are very technically precise. If anybody here is a beer brewer, they're probably very familiar with a number of different microbes. If anybody here has grown koji, you're probably also very familiar with a number of microbes, and you call on them on a day-to-day basis to help do your work. David Zilber, who's quite a famous person in the world of fermentation, he works for a company called Christian Hansen, which is one of the largest producers of these single-strain microbes in the world. And he said they have a rule of thumb in that company, which is never more than 5. They never mix more than 5 microbes in one blend because you cannot predict the outcome. You cannot control the product with more than 5. So that makes it even more remarkable that when you see wild fermented products in the world, and you see here, this is a picture of meju, which is a Korean ferment of beans. It makes it even more remarkable that wild ferments contain hundreds of, or many hundreds of different microbes working together in symbiosis, and somehow we have figured out as humans the method of shepherding these microbes to the outcomes that we desire. This is a scandalous slide right here. This is something we're all talking about right now in our industry. And it was really fascinating to me when the New York Times published the first article in 2023 about how Novo was closing its doors, and the quote that I remember most significantly from that article was Renee saying, "It's unsustainable. Fine dining is unsustainable." And I challenge you all to think about, maybe just for a minute, what made this particular approach to fine dining unsustainable. And I think it was about how they thought about, or what they valued within the items that they chose to put in the container of their restaurant. The word restaurant comes from restore, which is a Latin word that it means to restore, to regenerate. So it's really fascinating to me that the very word for regeneration is within the thing that Renee said was so unsustainable. And the first restaurants in France were places where you would go to get broth. You would go to receive something really hearty and uplifting. And I love that the idea for a restaurant comes from this place. But I challenge you now to think about, what do we put within the container of our restaurant? So this is where my large analogy, my poetic supposition is coming into the space and into the idea of a restaurant. What do we put inside the restaurant container? Well, we put people. People come, people go, and there's also the space and design, the equipment. We make choices around that, very deliberate choices. There's knowledge and education. You know, we bring our own culture with us when we open these spaces. We bring technique and we bring ingredients. And all of these things flow inwards and outwards, right? You know, your ideas for space and design can flow in and they can flow out. Your knowledge and education, of course, you create a space where people can come and learn. They're going to bring that information with them when they go. You bring ideas and technique. You bring mastery, and that comes and goes as well. People, I think, is one of the most important ingredients that you put into a restaurant space. People are your creators, your culture carriers, and your communicators. And there are different ways that you can nurture and nourish people, just like our last speaker mentioned, to help create healthy environments for them within your container. Ingredients are the second most important ingredient. Beyond choosing specific ingredients that you put inside of your menu, you can think about each part of that ingredient and how can you utilize it to its utmost. This picture is a visualization from the menu that we did in 2025 at Bruto last winter, and you can see we were thinking very carefully, and we did this same visualization for every part of the menu. This is what I call a menu map. This is the map that we created while we were ideating for menu creation over at Dry Storage. You can see on the right-hand side there are the seasonal preserves that we make all year round, or depending on the seasons. And then there are the daily players, the things that we call upon day to day. And we thought, okay, we know where we have leftovers. How can we utilize the things that we know will be left behind and make them into something new? We also think very carefully about where we stand within our community. For example, there was a project we started with Haken Family Cider where it was just a conversation that Daniel and I had about how to use less limes within our restaurant. I was asking him, is there an apple that is tart enough, and is there a method we can utilize? And we came up with a method of cryoconcentration that has turned into, like, I think 3 separate products for Daniel Haken since. And then finally, I'll just leave you with the receipts. I know that I spent a lot of time at the beginning of my speech talking about the container, but let's think about what these choices do in the long run. Now, it's really difficult to talk about the receipts because it's difficult to find the actual data that you can cross-compare what your decisions, what sort of impact your decisions make. But we have the receipts finally for what we're doing at Dry Storage Mill. And we've realized with information from the Rodale Institute that one 50-pound bag of regenerative flour can sequester a whole ton of carbon from the atmosphere. And that compares to 24 tons released with conventional flour. So if that is the kind of impact that we can have simply by choosing regenerative farming, can you think of what sort of impact you can have by choosing better methods within your space? Thank you.
There I am. Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Boyle, and I am with the School of Hospitality here at MSU Denver. Just look out the window right there, and we're right there. But more specifically, I'm with the Day Leadership Academy. The Day Leadership Academy was started by Frank and Gina Day. How many people are familiar with Frank Day? Several of you? So Frank Day was a very prominent restaurateur here in the Denver area. He started in the 1970s with a little hot dog stand up in Fort Collins. And over the decades, he ended up owning and managing over 80 hospitality and restaurant concepts. And, you know, Frank and Gina, during Frank's time, not only was hospitality, obviously elevating the hospitality concept in Denver important, but also what was a vision of his was making sure that his teams, his employees were taken care of, as Jodi was talking about, you know, in her first presentation. And so Gina and Frank had a passion of making sure that their employees could extend and continue their education and not have to go back to school full time. So back in 2019, Frank and Gina Day started what is called the Day Leadership Academy. And so how many of you are familiar with the Day Leadership Academy? Even less. All right. So after today, I hope to connect with a lot of you because the Day Leadership Academy, if you think about the School of Hospitality, for students, the Day Leadership Academy is for you all. The Day Leadership Academy was created to help individuals like yourself, small business owners with teams, to come up with solutions, to come up with education so that you, your teams, your business continue growing and continue that education. So we do things such as online classes, we have leadership classes, customer service. We're actually rolling out a class on AI as well in hospitality. But then we also do a lot of in-person classes for you all. We do things on food safety and alcohol handling and proper vending of alcohol. So we want to get out and work with you all. Our mission is to be a resource for you all, small business owners, to help your teams grow. So again, as Jodi was talking about, we want to help them grow in their roles, maybe not in title, maybe not in pay, but how can we help them grow in those leadership skills, those management skills? How can we help your teams improve in their customer service skills on that service recovery side, right? Those are things that don't cost you as much money, but can really elevate your service. And so, whether it's today or next week or in the next month or so, I look forward to catching up with a lot of you and having you approach us and say, here's things that we need help with, because we're here for you. We were funded, and our mission is to help the hospitality community. So we want to hear from you all what kind of services, what innovative things we can create for you, whether it's helping on food menu pricing, or is it, vendor contract negotiations. Sorry for some of the vendors that are here. But how can we help you all become better business owners and help your teams? And that's why the School of Hospitality and the Day Leadership Academy were so excited about being sponsors of today's event, because community is that focus. And what you guys are doing today in terms of learning, helping your teams grow, helping yourselves grow, that's exactly what the DLA wants to do as well. So that's the Day Leadership Academy, but more exciting than that is I want to introduce Ziah Orion, who is the founder and CEO of DeepGem. And DeepGem is an AI consulting firm, and he's going to talk obviously a lot more about it. But it's a consulting firm that was started back in 2021 that's worked with several different industries, whether it's the medical industry, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's the hospitality industry. And he helps businesses, small business owners like yourselves, identify how can they use AI, but really how can they leverage that AI to go solve problems so that you can go focus on your businesses. And what you're going to hear from Ziah and what has stood out in listening to him speak and doing research about him is his collaboration, right? A lot of consultants will come in and they'll create solutions and they'll roll them out for you, but they won't really take that time and sit down and understand what your problems are and what you're really trying to solve. And Ziah and his team, it's the exact opposite. Their focus is on collaboration first, really understanding the problems, and then creating the solutions, not coming to the table with the solutions already in their heads. And I think, interesting, in doing research about Ziah and hearing him speak, what has impacted him and what has really influenced his leadership style is the fact that he has traveled to over 50 countries around the world. He has 2 black belts in martial arts. He's a graduate of MSU Denver, right? He was a consultant for a prestigious consulting firm, KPMG, and he earned the honor of top consultant, the top 1% consultant of the year, one year. And I think it's all of those life experiences that he brings to his new company to really inform how he actually works with his companies that he works with and not just for them. So with that, please join me in welcoming Ziah.
Thanks so much. Hey, everybody. How are we feeling? Should we maybe stand up for like 5 seconds? Move our bodies for a second? Yeah. A little shake. We've been sitting for a little while. Love it. Okay, I promised a presentation of 10 minutes, so let's sit down and let's get rolling. How many people are currently using AI today? That is almost everybody. How many people think AI will impact the restaurant industry over the next 5 years? That is, I think, everybody. Great. Well, my presentation today is intended to give you practical use cases in your business. So you can use these today. You can actually follow along with this deck. This deck is not only a presentation, but a guide. I have all of the different prompts that I'll be using in these videos at the end of this deck, and I'll send it to all of you so you can use it yourselves. Okay. So, my girlfriend is really, really passionate about me talking about Claude and its ethics, so I'll spend 30 seconds talking about this. I think it's really important. AI is becoming good enough where it's not only what is the best model, but what model do you choose to support? And I think it's important that we consider ethics in AI, and I have found that Anthropic, the parent company of Claude, is a much more ethical company at times than ChatGPT and OpenAI. That said, I think OpenAI does great stuff, but for me, I find that B Corps, social entrepreneurship are very important, so I recommend try Claude. A quick tip to those of you who are already using AI, talk to it. Not many people actually use the voice features. I highly recommend you do that, and again, you can try all of this tonight. So, this is already changing our industry. 80% of people are increasing their spend within this industry on AI, and we're finding that 60% of them are saying that the customer is benefiting from those investments. And the biggest thing that I want to highlight here on this slide is many people are uncertain about a future with AI. How many people think that AI is going to be a positive impact on the future? How many people think it's going to be a negative impact? Yeah, it's about split. I think that where we put our energy is really important on this subject. Where focus goes, energy flows. And if you focus on the negative, you're going to have a negative relationship with this technology that is going to become part of this industry no matter what. I highly recommend you take a positive perspective on it because it can genuinely positively impact your business. So let's talk about how you can use it. So many people in the food and beverage space redesign their menus 3 to 4 times a year, if not more. Let's make this count. So, super simple what I'm doing here. I'm using a restaurant menu from a company that I first worked for. It's called 5280 Burger Bar. I worked there while I was at MSU for a little while. I took a screenshot of their menu. I pasted in this prompt. So again, I told you this is a practical guide. You'll get all 3 of these prompts at the end of this presentation. But all I did was I copy and pasted that prompt and a picture of the menu. I waited 90 seconds. 90 seconds later, I got an interactive web application that showed me the price of my burgers, my competitors, how I compare, and even gave me some insights on how I could adapt my menu to be more competitive in my marketplace. And I can get really fun with it. I can make it more like a steakhouse type menu if I want to redesign my menu. I can make it more of like a street corner, street art type of thing. Or if you want to get really funky with it, you can make it superhero themed. Whatever you want to do. Okay, second use case. This use case has a high opportunity for you to make tens of thousands of additional dollars in your business, so I want you to pay attention. So let's make your food look even more delicious in 5 minutes. Here is a photo from that same restaurant that I used to work at, 5280 Burger Bar. This was uploaded by a customer. And all I'm doing is I'm taking that photo, I'm throwing it into Claude, I'm taking this prompt, which you'll have access to, I'm throwing it right into, I'm in Gemini here. That's an important distinction. For videos and for photos, I recommend you use Gemini. I throw that prompt in there, that photo, and suddenly my food looks much more delicious. Why does this matter? This matters because it will significantly impact your online sales with things like Uber Eats. Based off of some industry reports and some research that I did, I found that companies that have photos, and especially good photos of their food, get 70% more orders. And this actually translates to, for an average restaurant, $40,000 in new revenue. And because this can be potentially more profitable, this can equate to up to millions of dollars in top-line sales in person in your restaurant. So I highly recommend that you improve your photos. You can have your front-of-the-house person do it. You can have somebody do it in 5 minutes. It's crazy how easy this is and the impact it has on your company. Last one. So you may not have actually touched your OpenTable account for many years. I found that another company that I used to work for, Pachi's Pizza, delicious, deep dish, had not touched their OpenTable in a little while. So again, I took my deck, I pasted this in, and it will ask me, okay, what is your OpenTable account for Pachi's Pizza? You'll see I go ahead and I go over to Pachi's Pizza, I grab that URL, I throw it in there. That's all I did. I waited 90 seconds, and again, I get a full web application that is showing me not only how can I improve it, but what are my strengths and weaknesses of my OpenTable account, what are some basic things I can do to drive more revenue, and really put butts in seats for my restaurant. It even comes up with a 30-day and I think an ongoing plan for this. So again, my intention here is to be practical and useful for you all. Here are 3 prompts you can use today to positively impact your business. We will send this out afterwards. Feel free to take photos if you want. And I'll give a little shout out to a community I'm a part of called the Let's Vibe community. The founder, Danny Newman's here. He started a company called Switchboard. And we talk about AI every Wednesday, 5 to 7. You can search for it at ID345. It spells ideas. And we'd love to talk to you more about this. So give this a try today. That's me.
Amazing, amazing. Let's put our hands together again for those 3 presenters. Awesome. I learned so much about SCOBY. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. Thank you. I love, the idea of retention makes so much sense to me. It seems simple, but Jodi broke it down in a way that makes sense. And then, Ziah, amazing. Those 3 prompts, I will use those, and my friends from OpenTable, I'm sure will be implementing those right away to help their customers out. So we're going to take a quick break. All right. Take your seats, everyone. Hope everyone got a chance to stretch their legs for a minute. Yeah, that was a great first session. Thank you, all of the folks that came up. I don't know if you know how difficult it is to stand in front of a group of your peers and talk about something even as well as you may know it. So another round of applause for those folks, please. So next up, we've got another 3 speakers to wrap us up. The first session was great in terms of like the knowledge and information. Please be ready to gather some more information and find some more inspirational tools that you can use out there in the world. So as we move into this, I'd love to introduce our next speaker and also welcome our new Eat Denver board member, Rima. I went through it like 3 times with her. I still messed it up. I'm sorry, Rima. I'm sorry. Welcome, Rima, to the board and to today. Thank you so much. Rima, I got this. I swear.
Thank you. We even practiced, but it's okay.
We did. 3 times.
Well, thank you all for having me here. I'm really honored to be here. But I am honored to introduce our next speaker. Maia Parish is a sommelier, wine writer, wine educator, events producer, and the founder of the Wine Suite LLC. Ms. Parish holds a BA in journalism and communication. She also holds a WSET Level 2 certification and has sat for the WSET Level 3 and the Certified Wine Scholar. Ms. Parish is the recipient of the Event of the Year in 2019 for the production of Night in Wakanda Gala. She was also the recipient of Sommelier of the Year 2024. Ms. Parish is the member of the Colorado chapter of La Dame d'Escoffier and works with the James Beard Foundation. She is also a freelance writer, and you can see her work in the Somm Journal, Food and Wine Magazine, Vine Pair, Ebony, Wine Enthusiast, and 5280 Magazine. You can find all her social media at The Wine Mistress. Her speech, Wine is Not a Luxury, How Culture, Storytelling, and Smart Beverage Programs Keep Independent Restaurants Alive, will be covering a few different subjects, how you should make wine a relationship and not a flex, using culture as your differentiator, and designing beverage menus for access. Please give a warm welcome to Maia Parish.
Thank you, guys. Okay. I'll be reading from my phone. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out your day to be here. I do appreciate it. All right, let's get started. I have a confession to make. I love a gorgeous bottle of wine, the kind you open for milestones and/or special occasions. But today, I'm here to tell you something that might sound like a little hearsay in the wine room. Wine is not a luxury. Wine is infrastructure. Okay. It is a revenue system, a loyalty engine, and it's a cultural bridge. And in 2026, it might be one of the most practical tools independent restaurants have left if we stop treating it like a museum exhibit and start treating it like hospitality. Because the market is not doing us any favors right now, the passive growth era is over, and performance hinges on behavior and not conditions. Revenue enhances profitability through increased sales opportunities. Hospitality, Hospitality, a well-curated wine selection elevates guest experiences, community. Local wine and small producers foster relationships, and they support our community. And through storytelling, narratives about wine create emotional communication with guests. So here's the talk. How do we build a beverage program that keeps the lights on and makes people feel like they belong in the room? I'm going to give you 3 moves. 1, first make wine a relationship and not a flex. Use culture as your differentiator, and designed for access because it also builds profit. Okay. Make wine a relationship. Let's talk about that for a second. If you've been in the hospitality area lately, you feel it. People are drinking differently, spending differently, and choosing differently. The Silicon Valley business just had the 2026 State of Wine, and the report lays out a clear performance gap is emerging. Top performers are reporting about an 8% sales growth, 11% operating income, while bottom performers saw a 10% sales decline and about a negative 10 or 11 operating margin. This is not a small gap. This is two different realities. And the dividing line isn't who has the best Cabernet, although that can be important, okay? It is who's building the relationships, who's using their channels like a loyalty engine. The report also points out that tasting rooms and wine clubs account for about over 50% of average winery sales, and in some regions, direct-to-consumers can be as high as around 70% of revenue. Translation for restaurants, the money is increasing in connection. So if wine is a connection, here are a list of practical shifts for restaurants. Stop building wine lists for wine people. And I really want to say that, okay? Okay. Build them for people who actually pay your rent. Your regulars, your neighborhood, the date night couple, the girls' night table, the solo diner who wants one perfect glass and peace from their family. Wine cannot feel like a pop quiz because when guests feel judged, they stop exploring. When they stop exploring, they stop ordering. And when they stop ordering, your check average drops and your service can feel it first. This report also has one hard line. Hospitality and experience remain the bedrock, not the garnish, the bedrock. So the goal is not to educate people into behaving like sommeliers, although we're great. The goal is to make them feel safe by saying, I like crisp, I like sweet, I like red but not heavy, I'm celebrating, or I'm broke, but I want something good, okay? This is a hospitality skill and not a wine skill. Okay, use culture as your differentiator. Now the second move is culture. Denver doesn't need another identical list of safe wine bottles. Please stop. Okay. Your guests can drink those anywhere. What they can't get anywhere is your point of view. Culture is not an add-on. It is a secret ingredient that turns beverage programs into a brand. Here's what I want to be very explicit. Culture includes women, BIPOC communities, I have to say this slow, the LGBTQAI+, all right, and even sober communities. Yes, sober communities. Not as a special don't make it as a special feature, but as a year-round truth to who we hire, who we spotlight, and the stories that we tell. Because wine historically has been gated by language, by class, by people who get seen as experts, a lot of people, especially Black and brown guests, queer guests, and women, have spent years walking into beautiful dining rooms and feeling like it was not built for them in mind. So here's what a culture-forward wine program actually looks like. A list that includes women winemakers, not as a token, but as anchors. A rotating spotlight on BIPOC producers and queer producers with staff stories that are not cringe or performative. Partnerships and events where communities aren't treated like a theme, but like a family. Non-alcoholic wines as a standard, y'all, on the menu, okay? You don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't need 3,000 SKUs or SKUs to gain clarity, but what you need is clarity. We literally call out this succession occasion that includes retain, focus, and simplify. This applies to restaurants too. So try this. Create, go back. Okay. Create story pillars on your list, maybe neighborhood classics. They can add comfort and value. Maybe culture and diaspora, BIPOC and global stories that match your cuisine and your guests. Celebration, sparkling, my favorite. Special pours, and yes, flex bottles for those who want them. Now your team isn't memorizing 40 grape facts. They're telling 3 kinds of stories. And when guests hear a story, they recognize about food, about heritage, about travel, and about identity. Wine stops being a luxury and becomes belonging. Okay, design for access because access is profit. And here's the third move. Let's talk about the scene in 2026. The consumer is pulling back. The direct-to-consumer wine data shows how sharp that pullback is. In 2026, direct-to-consumer wine shipping report says that we shipped more than about 230 million in 2025, but we saw a 15% drop in volume and a 6% decrease in value. And despite that, the average per bottle price still went up 11%. Go figure. Not all people are trading up. The report makes a more uncomfortable point. Lower-end buyers are purchasing less and dropping out of the channel altogether. That matters for restaurants because it means the middle guest, the guest who used to order a bottle without thinking, might only order a glass or skip wine entirely. Or they're choosing a cocktail or they just going home, upset. This isn't access, this is an actual strategy. This isn't access. Access is a strategy. Here are access levers to increase revenue and inclusion. Okay, own the By the Glass experience. Your By the Glass is your storefront, is where you can create conversation. Offer a Trust Me glass, one red, one white that your team can sell with confidence. Offer one cultural pour that maybe changes monthly and comes with a 15-second story. Consider half pours. Y'all, half bottles are great. They're your friends. For exploration, people may try more when the risk is lower. Make pricing feel intentional, not pushing. Guests can smell panic pricing. Instead, here are some tiers that we kind of give you guys a little incentive. $12 to $14 is an easy yes glass, okay? $16 to $24, special but same glass prices. Premium pour for the ballers, because we got a few out here in these streets. And if your costs are rising, say that in your language and in your service. Don't hide behind a list that feels like it was written for someone else. Train for belonging and not jargon. The winning move is not more information, it's more confidence. Your team needs permission to sell wine like humans, not like textbooks. Give them scripts like, if you like margaritas, and this white hits that bright and citrusy vibe. If you want something that tastes clean, like a clean vacation, try this sparkling, and so on. That is access, and access sells. To close, wine is how we keep independent restaurants independent. Wine isn't a luxury because luxury implies it's optional, and independent restaurants don't have many optional things left. That's definitely true. The industry is a challenging cycle, and the passive growth era is over. One second, I lost my place. Okay. In correction, the winners don't act fancy, they act intentional. They build beverage programs that retain guests, focus on the story, and simplify the choice. And expand the circle of who feels welcome ordering wine in the first place. If we don't do that, if we treat wine like an infrastructure and culture, if we treat wine as an infrastructure and culture as a strategy, then wine becomes one of the strongest tools we have to protect what we care about. Independent restaurants, independent people, and a city where hospitality feels like community. Thank you guys very much, and I do appreciate being here.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? Let's see. That's the wrong way. Hi. Kristen just told me which way to press this, and I did it wrong anyway. That's me. Hey, everybody. My name is Bryant. I am very honored right now to serve as the vice president of Eat Denver. My day job is running Oh Hey Creative. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. My day job is with Oh Hey Creative. I get to work with a lot of really cool food and beverage businesses around Colorado, and that's a real pleasure. It is also a pleasure today to introduce you to Tina Glickman. Tina's talk today is Why is Your Restaurant Invisible on Google? Get ready to take notes because I think it's going to be really helpful. Tina is the VP of Partnerships at Owner.com, where she helps thousands of restaurant owners grow online through strategic alliances and cutting-edge solutions. She's got a great deal of experience in business development and strategic partnerships, especially in the tech and hospitality sectors, through key leadership roles at Olo, Wisely, Bento Box, and Gust, and now at Owner.com. Tina holds a bachelor's degree from the University of the South in beautiful Swanee, Tennessee, and from the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. She grew up in Chattanooga. She spent a lot of time in Los Angeles and New York City, and now lives in Tucson, though I'm one of several people in this room who are encouraging Tina and her partner and dogs to move to Colorado. So if you chat with her afterwards, tag on to that. So we're really excited to have Tina here with us today, and I think you're going to really enjoy what she has to say. Without further ado, Tina Glickman.
Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm going to go down. All right, between my computer and my headshot, my AI headshot, my tech's really showing today. But it's great to meet all of you. As Bryant mentioned, I'm Tina Glickman, VP of Partnerships at Owner.com. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Owner, we fight to help independent restaurants take on their Goliaths by bringing the technologies used by the biggest brands in the country to their fingertips, really focusing on ensuring that the mom and pops have exactly what it takes to win online. As such, at Owner, we speak to hundreds of restaurant operators every single day who tell us that when they decided to start a restaurant, it really only took two things to be able to run a pretty incredible business, right? Great food and great experiences. And for decades, that was enough to be successful. If you made incredible food, if you treated your guests like family, word would spread, people would walk by, they would see a packed dining room, your regulars would tell their friends, and then your reputation, because of your great food and your great service, did the marketing for you. You could build an incredible business. And to be fair, it's not even easy just to get those two things right. And now those two things aren't enough. And that's because something has changed. And it's changed quickly, right? Everything has moved online. People today start their search, of course, for where to eat online, right? 77% of your potential guests begin their restaurant decision with a Google search. And consumers, I'm the worst of them, have the attention span of a flea. So if you don't show up within the first couple of search results on Google, functionally, you don't exist. And here's the part that most people don't talk about. The biggest brands in this country, they're not restaurants, right? Take Domino's. They started as a pizza company, but they're not a pizza company anymore. Domino's is a tech company disguised as a pizza company. Same with Sweetgreen. Same with Chipotle. These are now technology companies that serve food. And they have entire digital teams, not one SEO person, but armies of the brightest minds in technology who study the psychology of consumer behavior. They design perfect digital ordering flows, and they craft perfect user experiences on their websites. And they've spent millions of dollars to ensure that they are showing up well on Google. And that's why no matter where in the country you are, if you type pizza into Google, Domino's is likely going to be one of the first things that you see. Domino's also, of course, drives direct first-party online orders through their website and through their apps, which really are just high-tech machines built by hundreds of engineers to rank at the top of Google and to be able to convert visitors into buyers. And unfortunately, it's working, right? Every single year, the biggest chains capture a larger share of total restaurant industry sales, and the small chains and the independents capture less. And it's not because consumers, right, prefer the big chains. It's not because the big chains have better food or better service, because I guarantee most people would choose a real neighborhood pizza joint over Domino's in a heartbeat. But Domino's and all those other tech companies that serve food have engineered their entire digital presence to win the online game. And it's time for independents to have the tools to fight back. So don't worry, we're going to go over 3 things today so that you can start your journey toward better online health. But first, I want to go through some quick math, so I apologize in advance. And I'm going to show you this because SEO, or search engine optimization, it's not a buzzword, it's not a trend, it's how you as operators can get more visibility into your business and make more money. So what I did is I ran a query for how many folks search every single month for best pizza in Denver. And that's 1,500 searches every single month within your city. Now let's see how that actually translates to sales. So if a restaurant is ranked 3rd in the search results, data shows that approximately 11% of people will click on that business. That means 165 new potential customers will go to that restaurant's website. Now we'll presume a 20% conversion rate from an eyeball into a new paying customer, which would be 33 new customers a month. We'll presume a $30 ticket size. And so this restaurant that's ranked 3rd on Google will acquire 33 new customers each month and generate $990 this month in revenue. But I want to contrast that with a pizza shop in Denver that is ranked 1st on Google. Same number of searches, 1,500 a month, but for a restaurant that's listed at the top of Google, data shows that approximately 28% of people are actually going to click on that business. That means 414 new customers are going to go to that restaurant's website. 414 visitors to the website, same conversion rate, same ticket size. That's 83 new customers, and that's $2.5 thousand in sales each month. That's nearly $1.5K more every single month, or $18,000 more a year, just by improving where your restaurant is ranked in a Google search, right? That's real, that's meaningful revenue to operators like you guys who we know need it. And as you all know in this room, there are 3 ways to grow a restaurant, right? Get new customers, turn them into regulars, have them engage with you more, increase the size of every order, and technology can play a role in all 3, but none of it matters if people aren't finding your restaurant in the first place. And that's because everything starts at your front door, which is now your digital front door. And so you might be wondering, okay, what is my digital front door? Your digital front door is 2 things. It's your website and it's your Google business profile. These are now just as important as your physical storefront. These are how people who have never heard about you are going to discover you, they're going to evaluate you, and they're going to decide whether to give your restaurant a chance. So today we're going to focus on that foundation, which is SEO, search engine optimization, how to make sure your restaurant actually shows up when people are searching for exactly what it is that you serve. So Google actually looks at 200 different signals when it's deciding if it's going to show your website in the search results and where it's going to show your website in the search results. These are things like, does your site load fast? Is it mobile friendly? Does the content on the page match what people are actually searching for? Does Google understand what your restaurant serves and where it's located? Like Captain Obvious here, right? But you in the room don't have time to know all 200 signals that Google is looking for. So let's focus here on 3 things that you can do today to improve your discoverability online, meaning things you can do to make Google love your website and want to push you up in the search results. So we're going to start with your H1 tag. An H1 tag is the billboard that Google reads first. When someone lands on your website, they're going to see a big hero image, your restaurant name, maybe a tagline, but behind the scenes, in the code, there's a tag called the H1 tag. Again, think of it as the billboard that Google reads first. And this tag should tell Google, this is the most important thing about my business. This is what I should be found for. It should say something specific and local, not your restaurant's name, not best happy hour vibes. It should say something like best halal food in Lakewood or best wood-fired pizza in Aurora. And what you could see on the screen before the video stopped was that it said, for Swing Thai in Denver, it said best Thai food in Denver, Colorado. Because that is literally what people are typing into Google, right? When they want to find this type of food, it's very simple. What do you serve and where do you serve it? Now, most restaurant websites don't have this set up properly, or it just says the restaurant name. So please, take this information back to your developer, to your agency, to your daughter's boyfriend who builds your website. Tell them immediately, fix my H1 tag, make it relevant, make it local, and help Google understand exactly what it is that I do. The second most important thing that you can do today is to feed the beast, and the beast, of course, is Google. Google is so damn hungry for information. Your Google business profile is just one of the best free tools that every single one of you has. Every piece of information you can give Google, your hours, your menu, your photos, your services, your attributes, it helps Google decide whether or not it's going to push you up in the search results. And it's not just Google, right? Potential customers are looking at your Google business profile to make snap judgments before they even click through to your website, right? They're looking at your photos, your hours, your reviews. If that information is incomplete or it is out of date, boom, that consumer is moving on to the next result. And if you want to really take things to the next level, right? Think about how you display and feed all of the different publishers on the web where people search for their next meal. Yelp, Apple Maps, TripAdvisor. Google actually looks for consistency across all of those different publishers, right? Down to capitalization, down to punctuation, name, address, phone number. Google wants to see consistency with every single one of those publishers because it says, hey, I think this is a relevant, active business, and I'm going to promote it in search. Now, last but not least, this one surprises people sometimes. Google has actually stated publicly that review velocity and review volume are significant ranking factors. Here's what that means. If your restaurant has a 4-star average and 100 reviews, it will be ranked higher than 4.5 stars and 20 reviews. And that's again because Google cares about consistency and volume, not just how many stars you have. A restaurant getting 5 new reviews a week signals to Google that this is an active, legitimate, thriving business. And so the good news is, yeah, you can walk up to every table, you can ask them to leave a review, you can put our QR code up, but you can also automate it, especially when it comes to your online orders. The system is simple. After an online order, your customer should immediately get an email saying, hey, thumbs up or thumbs down. If it's a thumbs down, that should route directly to a private feedback form so that you can hear about problems before they get posted to Yelp. If they give you a thumbs up, you should route that guest immediately to Google so they can leave you a 5-star review, right? Happy customers are happy to leave your review. And you can build this with any email automation tool connected to your online ordering system. These are real results for one of our customers, Matanga's Pizzeria. By simply implementing that thumbs down or thumbs up loop for her online orders, her Alamo Ranch location has jumped from 4.3 stars to 4.6. She now has 143 reviews, when 3 months ago she had 57. And then for her Wilderness Oaks location, she's gone from 4.1 to 4.5 and 67 reviews to 151. And Google loves this, right? The velocity and the consistency that Matanga's is getting reviews with. Google loves it, and they're promoting her up in the search. So here's the thing, H1 tag, Google Business Profile, reviews, those are 3 things you can do today, right? Take them back to your teams, ask them to implement. But there are 197 other things that I didn't talk about today that can help you be found online. What you see right here is our restaurant website grader. It's a free tool. It's gonna tell you exactly where it is that you're standing up online, exactly where it is that you're falling down online, and exactly what you need to do better. It is literally a prescription for your business's online health. I'm gonna show you a QR code in a second so you can get the link, don't you worry. And it's free. And this is one of my favorite stories. So Crispy Halal, Crispy Halal ran our report 3 months ago. They never became a customer of Owners. We checked 3 months later because we were trying to give them a call and see if they wanted to come over, and we realized that they changed every single thing we showed them to change on the restaurant grader, and all of a sudden their score went from a 41 to a 91 in terms of their online health. And as you can see there on your right, their SEO skyrocketed from this tool. So let's do this. It's your shop. The big chains, right? They've got armies of engineers making sure they win online, but now we are giving you the knowledge that you need to fight back. Create a digital front door that works as hard as all of you do. Get out your phone, scan this QR code, see where you stand, see what you can fix. Implement this immediately, please, and make sure that all those folks out there who are searching for your type of food and your incredible service are able to find you online. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate y'all.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kip Wilson. I'm the Membership and Partnership Coordinator at Free Eat Denver. I don't really love public speaking, but it's an honor and a pleasure to introduce our last speaker and a dear friend of mine to the stage, Chef Michael DeLeon. For those that only recognize Chef from the new hit television show America's Culinary Cup that airs at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays on CBS, that's understandable. And if you want his autograph after his speech, just line up right over there and I'll make sure he signs all of them. But for those that don't know Chef Michael, he has been a longstanding member of our industry in the Colorado hospitality community. Growing up in Juarez and El Paso, his love for food, community, and hospitality started at a young age, surrounded by family. Fast forward to Colorado, earning his stripes and cutting his teeth, working alongside rock stars like Amos Watts, Justin Brunson, earning a Michelin star as the head chef at Bruto downtown. And now, after cooking for royals, sultans, and thousands of people around the world, we have the pleasure to welcome him back to Denver, where he recently launched his newest culinary concept, Molino Chido, in Aurora. Today, Chef Michael will tell y'all all about his chef's journey. He will tell you about how you can't and should not give up. And while burnout is a real and regular thing in the hospitality industry, it's not permanent, nor does it define you. I don't want to give away too many of his stories or his anecdotes, so I'll get out of his way. But in the words of Chef Michael himself, I was probably just picked here today for my great looks or my personality. So without further ado, please welcome the real star to the stage, Chef Michael DeLeon.
Hello, everybody. I've never seen Kip in a suit. That's kind of weird, huh? Thank you, Kip. Like Kip said, my name is Michael Diaz de Leon, and ironically enough, my talk is about mise en place, and I didn't make a slideshow, so go figure. My name is Michael Diaz de Leon. I've been a hospitality professional for over 15 years, and here's some things that I've learned along the way. Mise en place is not about preparing for the destination, but it's about preparing yourself for the journey ahead. In professional kitchens, we're taught that we have this phrase, correct? Mise en place. It means everything in its place. It's what brings you, calm before the storm, before the rush, before the fire, before the chaos. But if you prepare, then you're gonna have a great service. I didn't realize that growing up that mise en place wasn't just for cooking, but it was for my life as well. My personal mise en place starts in Ciudad Juarez and El Paso. I am a byproduct of an immigrant mother who came to this country to give me a better life. I'm very proud of that, and I stand before you humbly today. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. But it also taught me that community and food is what shapes you. And I grew up in this duality of not being American enough, but not also being Mexican enough. I also grew up in a cult, fun fact. So that was also really hard to get out of. But then that brought me to kitchens. And my first kitchen wasn't a Michelin star kitchen, but it was actually Burger King at 16 years old. That's where I felt in love with kitchens. I became obsessed with restaurants. I became obsessed with the brotherhood, the discipline, the chaos, the tecates, and the girls. Kitchens taught me that chaos only works when someone prepares for it. And then after that, I was just obsessed, and I became obsessive to a point of no return. My culinary journey took me to El Paso Community College, where I wanted to become a chef. And as a young chef, I dreamed of achieving the biggest of dreams, and I would see these celebrity chefs on TV, and I would look up to other chefs in my community, and I would always say, one day I hope I could be in that place. 15 years later, I'm very honored that my journey has brought me to Denver, Colorado, where not only did I achieve those dreams, but then it brought me to this beautiful community, and it has taught me the power of community through food, culture, knowledge, and kindness. In my 15 years, I've cooked everywhere from food trucks, country clubs, Michelin star restaurants, and now I cook tacos in Aurora. Then my transition comes here. After, working for so long in this industry, I did burn out, and I couldn't realize that, or I didn't have the courage to say that this industry is hard, and that in kitchens we're taught to push harder, faster, longer. And eventually I learned something the hard way, that even passion can burn you out. And sometimes you have to burn all the way down so you can rebuild yourself. In the last 2 years, I've taken the time to not only acknowledge that burnout, but to be proud of it and come on the other side. And now I stand before you with some negotiables that I've set for myself, which is my community, my family, sustainability in kitchens and in food, honoring my culture and where I come from, feeding the immediate community in front of me, and kitchens and restaurants as spaces of belonging and spaces that are safe for people to thrive. And in closing, through all this journey, I would like to say that mise en place isn't only about having everything perfect. It's not only about preparing yourself for whatever comes. The ingredients might change, the kitchen changes, the journey changes as well. But if you keep showing up and if you keep preparing, eventually you realize that the destination was never the point. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. That was a great one to end on. Thank you, Chef Michael, for that. Yep. Oh, sorry. Clicker. Thank you, Kristen, helping me along the way. I just want to say, one, thank you to all of the presenters today. Huge shout out. I took a couple notes, but Maia, I love the idea of NA wines and making wines accessible to everyone. I think great note on make it affordable, have a story, beautiful. Thank you. Also to Tina, I really like the idea of your storefront being online is equally important to what it looks like from the outside, and really pushing that forward to drive revenue and the experience. And then finally, Chef Michael, that was a very touching story about your past, burnout, and obviously regeneration and where you are today. So thank you again to all the presenters. Also, thank you to everyone that's here. This is a really tough industry, and I think all of us here recognize that. The beauty of you all coming together today is that this is what makes Denver's community so special and a place that I'm proud to be. I also want to thank Kristen and Kip for putting this all together. Amazing. Let's put our hands together. Could not do it without you and the rest of the board members. And finally, I want to thank our sponsors for today. We have great sponsors. Without them, we cannot do this. Just really appreciate you all. Can't wait to see you at the next Eat Denver event, celebrating 20 years here in this community and all that you've done. So thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic afternoon. Is there anything I missed, Kristen? No. Thank you. Take care.